Welcome back to Sail to Sleep. Tonight, we descend into the smoke-filled darkness of Port Royal's taverns, where shadows concealed secrets far more valuable than any Spanish treasure, and where women held the threads of fate that could elevate a pirate to legend or deliver him to the gallows. In the wicked heart of the Caribbean, where the year 1655 dawned over Jamaica's conquered shores, there existed a power far more insidious than any cutlass or cannon. The English had seized Port Royal from Spanish hands, transforming a quiet harbor into what would become known as the most depraved city on earth. But the true architects of this criminal empire weren't the swaggering captains who prowled its blood-soaked streets. They were the women who operated in its darkest corners, the tavern keepers who controlled the flow of information, money, and ultimately, destiny itself. Martha Harris was among the first. In 1655, colonial authorities accused her of illegally selling liquor from her home. But Harris possessed a defiance that would echo through generations of women who followed. When threatened by seizure of her goods, she declared she would simply acquire more and continue selling. Her audacity wasn't born of foolishness. It stemmed from understanding a fundamental truth. She had become indispensable. Pirates needed her establishment, her silence, her discretion. She had transformed herself from a simple vendor into a gatekeeper of the underworld. By July of 1661, Port Royal's transformation was complete. In a single month, 40 new tavern licenses were granted. The city that emerged was a fever dream of excess and shadow, where nearly 6,500 souls crammed into 51 acres of sin. Among them walked 44 tavern keepers, many of them women, each presiding over domains where fortunes change hands and fates were sealed with whispered words over rum-soaked tables. These taverns weren't mere drinking holes. They were intelligence networks wrapped in candlelight and smoke. Every conversation between drunken pirates revealed ship movements, crew strengths, hidden caches. Every argument between former shipmates exposed weaknesses that could be exploited. And the women who ran these taverns heard everything. They stood behind their bars, seemingly invisible, while pirates spilled secrets they would never have shared with their own crews. The tavern women operated in a twilight world where morality dissolved like salt in seawater. They purchased stolen Chinese porcelain and Dutch earthenware from pirates at fractions of their value, laundering plundered goods through legitimate channels. They extended credit to captains preparing for raids, becoming investors in piracy itself. They harbored wanted men in hidden rooms above their establishments, deciding who lived and who faced the noose. Francis Hanson, visiting Port Royal in 1683, was astounded to discover cash flowing through the city in quantities that rivaled London itself. Much of that wealth passed through female hands. The tavern women had become bankers to the Buccaneer Brotherhood, holding deposits, settling accounts, and wielding financial power that made them untouchable. But with that power came danger. A constant dance along the razor's edge between profit and peril. In 1721, decades after Port Royal's Golden Age of Piracy, a tavern keeper named John Dunks faced accusations of supplying pirates with men and provisions, even springing one from jail. The same fate could befall any tavern keeper who miscalculated, who backed the wrong pirate, who failed to read the shifting tides of colonial politics. The women understood this intimately. They cultivated relationships with colonial governors while sheltering wanted criminals. They attended church on Sundays while counting blood money on Mondays. Licensed drink sellers operated beside those running unlicensed operations, creating a web so complex that authorities could never fully untangle it. These women transformed themselves into shadows, present everywhere but visible nowhere, their influence felt but never proven. As night deepened in Port Royal, the taverns came alive with a sinister energy. Candlelight flickered across scarred faces as gold coins clinked on weathered tables. Prostitutes moved through the crowds, gathering intelligence as intimate as any confession. Musicians played while women circulated with drinks, their ears catching fragments of conversations that could mean life or death. In one corner, a captain might plan his next raid. In another, a tavern keeper might be signaling to authorities about a wanted man drinking at her bar. These women controlled something far more valuable than the pirates' gold. They controlled information, the currency of survival in a world where one whispered word could send a man to the gallows or make him rich beyond imagination. They decided who received warnings of approaching Navy ships, who learned about unguarded Spanish vessels, who discovered that a former ally had turned informant. When the great earthquake struck Port Royal on June 7, 1969, swallowing two-thirds of the city into the Caribbean Sea, many saw it as divine punishment for wickedness. But the system the tavern women had built proved more resilient than stone and mortar. They simply relocated their operations, carrying their networks and knowledge to new ports, new islands, new shadows. The pirates may have commanded the ships, but the tavern women commanded something far more powerful. They commanded fear, loyalty, and the very threads of fate itself. In the darkness between the candles' glow, in the space between a drink poured and a secret revealed, these women held the power of life and death over every pirate who dared to enter their domains. If you enjoyed tonight's journey into the shadows, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the dark side of maritime history. Until next time, sleep well, and remember, the most dangerous people in history weren't always the ones wielding swords.